Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andra Gillespie. I'm the director of the James Weldon Johnson Institute. And on behalf of the staff and the visiting fellows of JWJI, I'd like to welcome you to today's installment of the JWJI Colloquium in Race and Difference. Today, I am so pleased and honored to have Dr. Paulette Richards with us. If we were meeting in person at the Jones Library, you would probably know Paulette because she is a faithful attendee of our colloquium. And this talk is actually notable today because she is the first independent scholar who will be presenting in the colloquium. So without further ado, let me get to the bio. Dr. Paulette Richards is a puppet artist and independent researcher. She holds a PhD in French civilization from the University of Virginia and is taught at Georgetown, Tulane, and Georgia Tech. In 2013-2014, she was a Fulbright Scholar in Senegal. But while she was in service as an artist in residence at the Institut Français de Saint-Louis, the puppet bug hit her hard. So after returning to Atlanta, she became a docent in the Worlds of Puppetry Museum at the Center for Puppetry Arts. When fellow members of the Decatur Makers introduced her to Arduino microprocessors and stepper motors, she immediately thought of the animatronic dogs and doozers in the Henson Gallery at the museum and began designing her own rudimentary robots. Richards has taught animatronic puppetry workshops at the Friends School of Atlanta, Decatur Makers, the DeKalb County Public Library, the Center for Puppetry Arts, and the Puppeteers of America 2017 National Festival. She co-curated the Living Objects African American Puppetry exhibit that ran at the University of Connecticut's Ballard Institute and Museum of Puppetry from October 2018 to April 2019 with Dr. John Bell, and also co-edited the anthology of essays from the Living Objects Symposium. She's currently curating an exhibit of African American puppetry scheduled to open at the Center for Puppetry Arts in November 2021. And her book on which she's going to be speaking today, Object Performance in the Black Atlantic, is forthcoming from Routledge next year. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Paulette Richards.
Am I on?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, hello, it's a very great pleasure to be here. Actually, it's a dream come true to speak in this colloquium series. So thank you very much for inviting me. I timed my talk and it's running about 49 minutes, so I'm going to jump right in and move it along. So we have Creating Communitas, African American doll bloggers animate Black dolls as sites of signification. Young boys like Carol Spinney, who grew up in a time when gender roles were more rigidly defined, often heard their interest in puppetry disdainfully dismissed as doll wiggling. In an interview with the Huffington Post, Spinney recalled an incident in grammar school when a group of 18 boys threatened to beat him up. He told Jenna Marotta of the New York Times, students in the high school started a rumor that he was gay because he played with dolls. Small wonder then that puppetry scholars have tried to maintain a neat distinction between dolls and puppets. Bill Baird states, a puppet is an inanimate figure that is made to move by human effort before an audience, and insists it is definitely not a doll. Both dolls and puppets are figures, but dolls are ostensibly for static display or private play, while puppets are animated in performances before an audience. Furthermore, dolls usually represent human figures, while puppeteers can animate any object as a character that has agency to affect the outcome of a narrative. When children and adults engage in social doll play, however, the distinction between dolls and puppets blurs. This study therefore explores the work of 3 African American artists who maintained doll blogs and animated their dolls in short video narratives between 2010 and 2015. Vanessa Morrison, Hayet's Muff, and Roxanne Mcgee. Following the inauguration of Barack Obama, the first African American president of the United States in 2009, Mattel released the Sew in Style line of dolls. Now, just a minute. There we go. Thank you. This was a line of African-American fashion dolls presented as Barbie's friends who hailed from Chicago, like the president. A community of African-American doll enthusiasts coalesced on Blogger, where they shared photo stories of quotidian Black life featuring ethnic fashion dolls in family gatherings, romantic relationships, and communal celebrations such as weddings. At the same time, video streaming technology made it possible for this group of African-American women to share their doll play with an international audience. Girlhood studies, as a subdiscipline of gender studies, has approached doll play from historical, anthropological, and psychological perspectives. But none of this research has addressed adult doll collectors, let alone adult women of color who not only collect, but also play with dolls. Fandom scholars have examined adults' creative responses to media franchises such as comic books, films, and television series. Yet the women of this doll community were not imagining further adventures of trademark characters within the world of existing media properties. Instead, they appropriated figures intended to represent trademark characters and cast them as actors in their own fictional worlds. Although YouTube has provided a platform for tens, if not hundreds of thousands of girls and women to produce and disseminate visual narratives using dolls to represent myriad fictional worlds, film studies scholars have not scratched the surface of this body of work. Justin Wyatt's interview with Todd Haynes in Film Quarterly appeared in 1993, long before amateurs had the means to extend the techniques for animating Barbie dolls that Haynes pioneered in Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story. The role of technology in turning doll play into public performance would make for a seminal case study of how this particular African-American community engaged with what Henry Jenkins termed convergence culture. My interest, however, is in identifying instances of distinctly African-American object performance. Therefore, my analysis will examine these doll performances through the lens of performance studies rather than media studies. To that end, this presentation revisits Steve Tillis's The Art of Puppetry in the Age of Media Production in order to consider dolls as media figures whose performance is made possible through technological mediation. While Tillis's essay appeared in 1999, before video streaming was accessible to the general public, 20 years later, the COVID-19 pandemic has forced puppeteers into technological mediation as almost the only way to perform before an audience under quarantine. While technological advances allow puppeteers to live stream their performances, setting up a static camera to capture direct manipulation of figures will likely prove just as unsatisfying to audiences as Adolf Zucker's scheme of filming famous players in famous plays did over 100 years ago. Tillis's reflections on the forms puppetry might take in the age of media production are therefore useful for considering whether the doll bloggers' videos count as puppetry and for analyzing this body of work as a model of how puppeteers can connect with audiences at a time when the future of live theater is uncertain. Van's Doll Treasures. Vanessa Morrison was born in 1968. She grew up in Alexandria, Virginia, and earned an electrical engineering degree from Penn State University. Morrison worked as an engineer and manager at Eastman Kodak for about 12 years. After relocating from Rochester, New York to Atlanta, she switched to working as a realtor. Morrison married and enjoyed mothering her 5 stepchildren, but was disappointed that her husband did not want to have children with her, so they divorced amicably. She began making porcelain dolls and teaching doll making workshops around 2003. She also worked with a group of Black doll collectors on publishing an online magazine featuring doll photo stories. In April 2009, she published her first post to Van's Doll Treasures on Blogger. She had started an Etsy store and apparently saw the blog as a way to promote her business. In July 2009, at age 41, she was diagnosed with multiple myeloma and given 3 to 5 years to live. Starting with 21 posts in 2009, Morrison's most active year as a doll blogger was 2013, with 293 posts. In addition to her blog posts, Morrison created 93 videos and shared them on her YouTube channel. As of June 30th, 2020, her channel had over 17,000 subscribers and had garnered 15,299,263 views. Her last blog post was August 11th, 2017. Morrison passed away 2 months later. Morrison named her fictional doll community Morristown. The primary characters were African American, but the storylines included a wide range of ethnicities. Morrison attracted a vibrant community of doll enthusiasts from all over the world as followers of the blog. The romance of Danielle Harper and Rod Taylor was the most compelling storyline. Danielle and her sons first appeared in a post titled New Family, The Harper Family, on Sunday, November 7th, 2010. Danielle was a widow. Her husband was killed in a car accident. Their sons were Julian, age 5, and Jacob, age 2. In March 2011, when Danielle took her boys on a beach vacation with her neighbors, the Taylors, she met Anthony Taylor's brother, Roderick. There was immediate chemistry between them. Rod was divorced. His ex-wife, Melanie, had primary custody of their 9-year-old daughter, Nicole. Danielle and Rod went on their first date in Barbie Fashion Doll Story, episode 16. And over the next year, fell deeply in love. Morrison detailed their highly anticipated wedding in episodes 57 through 64. Morrison's videos were always slideshow style, using dozens of photos interspersed with title cards. She made no effort to create stop-motion sequences. Tillis asserts that Walter Benjamin's theories about the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction are not applicable to media figures such as CGI characters and stop-motion characters because their animation is produced through technology rather than being a reproduction of some tangible object in motion. So Morrison's media figures may still qualify as puppets under his definition, particularly since he did not consider how camera movement and editing techniques could animate a media figure. The succession of poses and camera angles in Morrison's videos gives viewers the sense that they are watching slices of life unfold at a pace that stretches out each moment and makes each detail more poignant. Tillis asks on what basis we can consider some or all media figures puppets. Although Morrison does not animate her figures through puppetry techniques, she gives them voice by integrating dialogue text into her photos. Rather than creating speech bubbles, she positioned dialogue text near the character that spoke it. Her editing makes lines of dialogue appear and disappear in carefully choreographed sequence, so it is words rather than motion that bring her figures to life. The blog post accompanying the first episode of the wedding videos drew 32 comments, about half consisting of Morrison's replies. Readers from as far away as Spain and Russia complimented the story. Shasa Rignis commented in French, and Morrison replied in kind. Kenya G. Johnson complimented the photography, particularly the realism and the depth of field. Morrison subsequently published a blog post asking, "Do you have doll families attending the wedding?" She encouraged readers to send pictures of their dolls dressed for the wedding to her Facebook page. She also included a link to Hey It's Muff's post showing her doll, Tatiana, getting ready to attend. Tatiana was a sew-in-style Trichelle. She donned a pink cocktail dress Muff's mother had made 20 years earlier. The last photo pulled back to show the set diorama, and Muff also revealed what lighting equipment she used. I have a few consumer photo lighting kits, and the boom light above is from a set. Although I have an umbrella to go with it, I didn't bother diffusing the light. That's a 150-watt bulb, so it wasn't that harsh. Muff's post received 42 comments, about half being her responses to readers from all over the world. My own April 12, 2012 post to Lambe Doll's blog had Amira and Karim Ndiaye flying in from Dakar to attend the wedding. Morrison commented, "Amira and Karim look awesome. I am excited that they are coming all the way from Senegal." Morrison published the latest wedding video on Tuesday, April 1st, 2012. It drew 36 comments and responses. Finally, on Monday, April 23rd, she could announce, "Here Comes the Bride, episode 59. It sparked 155 comments. About half are Morrison responding to viewers. When the video opens, the bride's party have assembled in the foyer outside the sanctuary. Over the years, Mattel has produced play sets for just about every scene one can imagine, including a pink and white wedding chapel. Morrison's church is much more dignified. Dressing all the guests required a deep inventory of outfits in all sizes and a significant investment of time. Although Morrison did not animate her figures in real time, her meticulous attention to designing sets, props, and costumes enhanced the illusion that her characters are moving through a lifelike world. As the bride enters on the arm of her brother, the music changes to Wagner's bridal chorus from Lohengrin. Morrison and most of the other doll bloggers had no scruples about using trademarked figures in their stories, but they learned to meticulously avoid using copyrighted music. If copyright holders complained, YouTube either remove the offending content or disable the soundtrack. Other copyright holders participated in a pool that received royalty payments from ad revenues. So when YouTube identified copyrighted music in a video, the company might place ads on it, even if the copyright holder did not file a complaint. As Morrison explained to Ms. Leo's query on her April 23rd blog post, "I actually buy my music now to avoid issues." This period saw the rise of social media influencers who generated six-figure incomes by promoting products on their channels. Indeed, another African-American doll blogger named LaToya Moore Broyles earned deep respect amongst doll enthusiasts for her doll crafting tutorial videos on her My Froggy Stuff channel. By 2020, she was earning an estimated $1.5 million per year from ads and endorsement deals. Still, the doll bloggers reviewed here all opted not to accept advertisements on their channels. A reader named Debbie had arranged for her proxy dolls to appear in the wedding. She was pleased with the outcome. "OMG, Vanessa, that was so beautiful. My husband, who doesn't understand the doll world, ran over to watch the video with me. He loved it too. He couldn't get over all the little details that went into the wedding. Who knows? Maybe he'll start watching them with me on a daily basis. That was the best wedding we've been to in a long, long time. Can't wait for part 2. Note to self, need more tissues." Morrison replied, "Debbie, thanks. I am touched that your husband watched it too. Your doll alter ego had great seats in the church. Did you show your husband your doll family? LOL. Debbie responded, "Ha ha ha. Yes, my husband agreed that we had great seats. He also said he's more handsome than he remembered, and I looked like a doll. He went on to say that maybe it was just the great lighting in the church. LOL. Morrison's answer echoes one of the attractions puppetry holds for puppeteers, Tell him that's the beauty of the doll world. You can be anyone you want and look fabulous at it. Like conventional puppeteers, she also understood that the angle of a figure's head can make its whole expression appear to change, even when its features are permanently painted or sculpted in one position. Thus, she makes skillful use of poses and camera angles to convey her character's emotions. Vita Plastica commented on the blog post accompanying the wedding ceremony video, Sniff. Rod's face at 2 minutes 35 seconds was precious. I swear these dolls change expressions. Great ceremony so far. The ceremony continued in episode 60. The scene opens in medias res with Shantavia, the photographer, working in the aisle. Danielle and Rod exchange vows as reaction shots of the guests and images of restless children in the pews heighten the audience's sense of being present at the ceremony. Once the pastor introduces Mr. and Mrs. Taylor, the music changes back to Mendelssohn's Wedding March, and the wedding party exits the sanctuary as the guests look on. So I will switch over here to a clip from the video. We'll see if we can get this to play. Uh-oh, that is not what we're doing. Chose the wrong thing, sorry. No, that's PowerPoint. Oh, I need to start it. Sorry, a little fumbling, but we'll get it together just a moment. Okay, we should be able to enjoy it now. Okay. There were 43 comments on the blog post that accompanied part 2 of the wedding. The lingering shots of the church doors when the pastor asks if anyone objects to the marriage led some viewers to expect that Melanie, Rod's ex-wife, would storm through and create a scene. All were relieved that she did not appear and effusive about the emotions the ceremony evoked. The next YouTube video, Rod and Danielle's wedding photos, drew 79 comments. About half were Morrison's responses to viewers. Wedding reception part 1 followed with no intervening blog post. Amid 75 comments exchanged, Morrison tellingly says, "There will be a little more drama in this video, but for the most part, my dolls don't have a lot of drama in their life. I like to focus on regular, ordinary life." Her blog post on New Year's Day 2011 gives a glimpse of why she kept her doll stories low-key and upbeat. The first sentence reads, "Today is the last day of the worst year of my life. I am sharing this story with the hopes of bringing inspiration, not despair." Over the course of 2010, Morrison received a terminal cancer diagnosis, survived a carjacking, and broke her front teeth when she fainted and fell down the stairs in her home. Out of these experiences, she found a new sense of freedom. "The day I got diagnosed was the day I really started living. There was almost a sense of relief. I didn't have to focus on having enough money to retire at 65 or 67. I no longer had to worry about having good credit. I could actually live each day to the fullest. I was a workaholic before I was diagnosed. I am still a workaholic, but I'm more focused on the things that matter to me. Morrison's art was one of the things that mattered to her because it served to highlight the intimate moments that were the most meaningful experiences of life in her eyes. Her videos were definitely low tech, but they made a profound impression on viewers in spite of the technical flaws. In his discussion of whether CGI characters can meet the UNIMA USA criteria for excellent puppetry and video, Tillis addressed an objection that CGI performances eliminate the possibility of mistakes. He concedes that mistakes can be edited out of non-live performance, but insists mistakes remain in all kinds of non-live performance when the replacement of those mistakes does not seem worth the cost and/or effort. Morrison's response to a viewer who spotted a continuity error indicates that she consciously made such decisions about the cost effectiveness of erasing mistakes. In all of my video and stories, I have only reshot 3 pictures. With video, the image goes by so fast, you rarely notice the imperfect shots. There are things you can do in the digital imaging software to make it better. I could have straightened the plate in the software if needed. Like Tillis, she understood that a great performance can contain more mistakes, a flubbed line, a misplaced prop, than a mediocre performance that is errorless, but without passion or intelligence. In the final credits of each video, Morrison celebrated the realization of her auteur vision, a Van's Doll Treasures production, written, edited, and produced by Vanessa Morrison. At the close of the wedding reception, Morrison's regular readers were sorry to see the festivities end. Hey It's Muff summed it all up, saying, "This was a sweet, heartfelt ride, you know. I think I found your videos right when Rod first spied Danielle on the beach trip. I'm seriously even tearing up thinking about it. The work, the effort, the quality. I just want to thank you for letting us step outside ourselves to enjoy so many moments in your creative world." Muff would go on to produce her own series of narrative videos that extended Morrison's techniques even further. Hey It's Muff started on Blogspot with 15 posts in 2011. The following year was her most active with 71 posts. Her last post was in 2017. Muff posted her first video to her Hey It's Muff YouTube channel in 2013. She stopped posting after 59 videos in 2017. The 5 videos about her character Tasha, posted from March 22, 2013 to August 9, 2013, are the only doll narratives. The rest present tutorials or document shopping trips and new acquisitions. Muff provided very few details about her personal life, other than the fact that she lived in Florida. Her character, Tasha's lifestyle, may reflect her own level of affluence or may be an aspirational fantasy. Tasha drives a sporty red Mini Cooper. She has just left a relationship with a boyfriend who did not treat her well and moved into her own apartment in a beautifully landscaped complex that Muff says is located in the artsy area of town. I designed this based on Riverside area of my town. Lots of old brick houses, brick streets, and greenery abound. The set design therefore reflects not so much consumerist fantasy as a desire for a space that supports creativity. In another response, Muff confesses that the whole diorama was set up on a bed in her home, indicating that she did not have as much space for her creative work as she would have liked. Videos often failed to play within Blogspot, and some readers would not look for the video on YouTube, so Muff customarily published a transcript of the dialogue from her videos with still photos as a photo story on her blog after posting the video to YouTube. Since she also included a translation tool on her blog, international readers could follow the story. My comment on Kevin's confession, part 1, celebrates Muff's technical skill. You have definitely raised the bar on doll videos. Thank you for a very bright start to my day. I also asked what software she used to edit the piece and put in the speech bubbles. Muff replied, I use Windows Movie Maker to make the video and Photoshop 7 to add the speech bubbles. Thus, she had a clear artistic vision and was able to realize it, even though she was working with rudimentary tools. Tillis notes that media figures share with puppetry the crucial trait of presenting characters through a site of signification other than actual living beings. Yet, most of the roles Hollywood has scripted for Black bodies are sites of signification that perpetuate the objectification of Black bodies, rather than recognizing their inhabitants as living beings. Saidiya Hartman has identified the Black body as a scene of subjection. So while the delight and enchantment of seeing dolls come to alive could be a strong motivation for a doll collector to attempt making a doll video, casting dolls rather than live actors was also a more accessible way for Black women to counter the meanings living Black bodies have historically evoked on screen. The barriers for talented women like Muff to access such power within the film and television industry are high. Martha L. Lothan's report, Boxed In, indicates that in 2017, women filled only a quarter of the creator, executive producer, and writer roles in television. Darnell Hunt similarly documented the barriers African American writers face in the film and television industry in a 2017 report commissioned by Color of Change. Of 234 series, only 4.8% of the 3,817 writers employed were Black. Thus, despite the success of the phenomenally talented showrunner Shonda Rhimes, the odds of a Black woman securing the opportunity to produce her own live-action television series were exceedingly slim. In 2011, while the community of doll bloggers were producing stories with media figures, Issa Rae launched a live-action web series titled Awkward Black Girl. Born in 1985, Rae was relatively more privileged than the creators of the doll videos who were born in the 1960s and 70s. Growing up, her father's income as a physician provided an upper-middle-class lifestyle in Potomac, Maryland, and the affluent View Park, Windsor Hills neighborhood of Los Angeles. Rae matriculated at Stanford University and then moved to New York City, where she received a fellowship at the Public Theater and also attended classes at the New York Film Academy. With these credentials, Rae could likely have earned a seat in the New York film, in the writer's room on a network series, and then worked her way up to producing her own series. Rae wanted more creative control, however. Writing, producing, directing, shooting, and starring in her own series gave Rae total control over her representation of a young Black woman's day-to-day life. The size of the audience Awkward Black Girl attracted on YouTube put her in a strong negotiating position when she took the concept to HBO as Insecure. The doll bloggers may not have shared Rae's career goals, but they did share her drive to retain creative control over their representations of Black life. Each of the videos in Muff's series drew comments from more than 20 readers. Some praised the story and production values. Viewers particularly appreciated the realistic level of detail in the sets and the naturalistic quality of the acting as expressed through the stop-motion sequences. Some identified the story as part of the soap opera genre and compared it to Scandal by Shonda Rhimes. Tanya Modleski was one of the first critics to make a serious study of soap operas. She found that, in direct contrast to the typical male narrative film in which the climax functions to resolve difficulties, the mini climaxes of soap operas function to introduce difficulties and complicate rather than simplify the characters' lives. Modleski further identified lack of closure, multiple identification, and emphasis on reading facial expressions in close-ups as characteristics of soap operas. She argued that the narrative form of the soap opera makes anticipation of the ending an end in itself, thereby creating pleasure from what she described as the central experience of women's lives, waiting. For readers of the doll blogs, anticipating the next installment of the video narrative was a significant part of the pleasure. The waiting was what constituted the community. While waiting, people exchanged comments and published blog posts that responded to the previous installment, thereby generating more comments that referenced the original video and anticipated the possible outcome of the story. The wait between Anthony's advice, posted April 12th, and Kevin's confession, posted July 3rd, 2013, gave viewers plenty of time to wonder whether Kevin would find the courage to profess his love to Tasha. The wait for Kevin's confession, part 2, posted on August 9th, allowed viewers to savor the humor in Tasha's assumption that Kevin was trying to come out as gay and to speculate about her response to his true feelings. Since Kevin was Tasha's stepbrother, viewers were divided on the incestuous nature of the relationship. Some hoped that Kevin and Tasha would be able to make a romantic relationship work. Others felt that even though they are not blood siblings, a romantic relationship was out of the question, but hoped that the brother-sister bond would remain strong. So here we go. I'll work to queue up the next video. By leaving that. Okay, and do share screen. And I think we're on it. Okay, yes, we toggle back over to the PowerPoint. Muff's responses to audience comments detail her creative process and vision. Initially, she reassured viewers that she had the whole story in her head and there would be a happy ending. Other responses describe how much work producing the video was. Yet Muff also admitted that if she had an assistant, she would probably not be satisfied with their work and would end up doing everything herself anyway. Finally, 2 years after posting the last episode, she said, "City Chica, sorry to say this was the end of the story, LOL. Making doll stories was way more time consuming than I could keep up with." This lack of closure is true to the soap opera genre. So moving now to Roxanne's dolls. Roxanne Mcgee started her Blogspot blog in 2009. She made 44 posts that year and published an all-time high of 51 posts in 2014. Her last post was in January 2019. Born around 1970, in the About Me tab of her blog, Mcgee says she loved playing with dolls as a child, but none of my childhood dolls made it into adulthood with me. She made her first doll purchase as an adult in 1989, and by 2012 had amassed 277 dolls, give or take. At the time of Ms. Leo's 2012 Mass Blogger interview, Mcgee had never attended a doll show and only talked to other collectors on the web. As a full-figured woman, her request to Mattel or other toy makers would be, "Someone please make some articulated chubby dolls." One of Mcgee's featured doll characters is Callista from MGA Entertainment's Best Friends Club, Inc. MGA created this line of dolls in 2009 during the period when Mattel had embroiled them in a lawsuit over their wildly popular Bratz line of fashion dolls. An MGA press release stated that the BFC Inc. dolls came with relatable fashions and interactive journals meant to inspire girls to discover their individuality and focus on the experiences girls go through in life, knowing that their friends will be there forever. Over the life of her blog, Mcgee vividly imagined the experiences of the Callista character and published 43 posts presented as entries from Callista's diary. The post titled Summer Separation, published on June 15, 2014, included a video with the same title. Mcgee is a skilled writer who realistically captures the voice of her junior high avatar. In this diary entry, Callista relates that with only days left in the school term, her boyfriend Bob announced that he would be away for most of the summer. When he admits that he had known for 6 weeks that this separation was coming, Callista feels confused and angry, even though Bob tries to reassure her. Mcgee typically uses videos to highlight the emotions that the characters in her photo stories are feeling. So Summer Separation is a music video style montage rather than a linear narrative. In critiquing Levinson's criteria for defining puppetry in video, Tillis observes, curiously, Levinson is not concerned with real-time vocal performance, probably because it is so rare in film and video. An alternate meaning of real-time would refer to a synchronicity not only of control and movement, but of audience reception as well. Since Mcgee's videos show no real-time synchronicity of control, movement, vocal performance, or audience reception, they would not meet Levinson's definition of puppetry. Still, by choosing to sing her own cover of Phil Collins' Against All Odds as the soundtrack for the video, she poignantly gives voice to Callista's pain. The opening shot shows Callista and Bob standing in front of their lockers in the hallway at school. The locker background is a photograph rather than a three-dimensional set, but it looks convincing. Mcgee accomplishes most of the animation by manipulating the dolls like rod puppets while holding their legs below the frame. Bob is a vintage Bob Scout doll made by Kenner in the 1970s. These figures had loose neck joints, so Mcgee is able to suggest the characters in dialogue by subtly moving Bob's head in an over-the-shoulder shot while the camera focuses on Callista's reaction. In between the locker sequences, Mcgee includes still shots from earlier photo stories she had posted about Bob and Callista. These images represent Callista's memories of her time with Bob over the whole school year. They appear sitting in class together, attending a pep rally, etc. Mcgee animates the images by applying Ken Burns effects so that even when the figures are not moving, there is a sense of flow that maintains the illusion that they are animated. In responding to Doll Party's comment on an erotic video shared on her July 21st, 2014 post, Week, Mcgee describes her process saying, yes, a lot of work went into this video, about 20 minutes for the song, the filming took maybe a couple of hours, and the editing took the most time, about 7 hours. This response shows her commitment to artistry, while Summer Separation displays Mcgee's keen understanding of editing techniques. During the drum break, at 1 minute 33 seconds, a series of stills from the locker room scene dramatizes the character's gestures by cutting rapidly on the beat. Then the puppetry sequences resume. Mcgee creates an especially impressive effect at 1 minute 44 seconds when the lyric, "I wish I could just make you turn around and see me cry" plays. Callista raises her glasses and a tear rolls down her face. In her diary entry, Callista struggles to understand Bob's motivations. He finally kisses her for the first time at 2 minutes 17 seconds in the video and starts to move out of the frame. The video ends with Callista standing alone in front of the lockers. The doll cannot emote like a live actor, but the shot composition and the music effectively convey her pain and confusion. Okay, so bear with me one more time while we share the video instead of the PowerPoint. Okay, we should be good to go. Only 2 viewers have commented on the video, but Mcgee received and responded to 8 comments on the blog post. All were enthusiastic in their praise of the video. The grandmommy said, "Loving that video! You did it, girl!" Muff said, "That video was fantastic. I liked the heck out of it on YouTube. I enjoyed the singing, the action shots, the stills, everything. Well done. Clap, clap, clap." And D7 Anna said, "Clapping. Love the video and the vocals. Yay, Roxanne. Thanks for sharing." Many of the readers also addressed Callista directly, offering sympathy and advice. The grandmommy suggested signing up for some summer classes and camps, while D7 Anna wrote a 5-paragraph letter reminding Callista that Bob had as much fun with her as she had with him and would miss her too. Callista wrote back to the grandmommy and D7 Anna, thanking them for their advice in a sweet, respectful tone. where Tillis finds that media figures share with puppetry the crucial trait of presenting characters through a site of signification other than actual living beings. The distinctive trait of African American object performance is the drive to resist the objectification of the Black body. All three artists effectively use Black dolls as sites of signification to achieve this goal. Morrison uses dolls to show the development of a mature relationship that leads to marriage. Muff shows that Black women can be attractive as romantic partners for men of any race. Mcgee shows that Black girls were not born as lascivious temptresses, that they can be sweet, innocent, and vulnerable, just like anyone else. While Tillis skirts the question of voice, because vocal performance is almost never live in media, Morrison, Muff, and Mcgee all use voice as a way of animating their media figures, even when the figures are not in motion. They also demonstrated that camera movement and editing techniques are other ways to animate media figures that Tillis did not consider. Although doll play has traditionally been distinguished from puppetry because it presumably did not occur before an audience, the doll bloggers' intimate engagement with their audience provides an instructive model of how to create communitas, even when the performers and audience cannot share the same moment in time and space. Thank you. So these are sources, more sources, my contacts, and questions.
Great. Thank you very, very much for this wonderful presentation. We do have some questions. If you have more questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function. I will start with questions from the fellows just because they're here first. So the first question is from Francine Allen. Thank you for this fascinating presentation. Could you discuss what connection you see between the creation of doll videos and the creation of accompanying narratives, particularly given the stories that seem to drive the doll videos?
Okay, so the artists that I'm studying here, their primary mode of communication was through their blogs. So they were writers first. And then the streaming video capability arose, and some of them took advantage of that to express themselves more fully. But they continued writing their blogs, and indeed, all of them eventually got overwhelmed making videos, stopped doing that, but kept the blogs up.
Great, thank you. Barbara Combs asks, thanks so much for opening my eyes to the ways that cultural artifacts like dolls can play in promoting or frustrating social equality. It made me think about the Kenneth Clark doll experiments. Can you speak a little about this?
Okay, yes, we talked a little about this before, but I will respond. So the women in this community were all very aware of that experiment. They would reference it from time to time. They used it to champion, to push stores to stock more Black dolls, and to promote people like My Froggy Stuff, who were actually creating the doll that you saw in that clip, in that slide. My Froggy Stuff did not produce, but another Black-owned company licensed her image to produce that doll. So that was a great celebration in the community. Yeah, I think I've answered that question.
Okay, thanks. So the next question is from Edgar Randolph. Playing with dolls can be seen as reflecting reality, and animating figures can be seen as creating reality or public performance, Vanessa Morrison said. Vanessa Morrison said, my characters do not have drama. How do Black animators create a reality without drama that is ordinary? Can you contrast the reality of the Black bodies they are creating with, what we see all around us in terms of reality television?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a story in Morrison's world might be that the family goes for ice cream. And as a former creative writing instructor, I would avidly read these things and comment to my friend, well, nothing happens. And it's true that nothing happens. And so from the standpoint of, traditional literary criticism, they were not effective stories because there was no narrative arc, there was no central conflict, but they were nevertheless fascinating because we didn't see Black families just going for ice cream. And then all of the little details that she included to add a sense of realism to that, it fed something and was satisfying, even though nothing happened.
Thank you. So this is I think more of a request from Marcia Cohen. Would you be willing to scroll back just to see your sources again? So your source
Sure.
slides, because that went by a little quickly.
Okay. So that's one slide. And then, did you get the shot yet? You can screenshot that.
Yeah. And this will be posted too. So
that's one. Okay. And then the second one. Okay. And then we should probably leave it on where you can find me.
yeah. Yeah. Thanks. So Jane Schindler asks, how available and where are these variety of dolls available?
So the Sew and Style dolls, that line has been discontinued. But Mattel subsequently around 2015, they must have realized it earlier because it takes a while to put a new line into production. But in 2015, they released a new line of fashionistas dolls, and they advertised they have 7 different skin tones and I don't know how many different face molds and hair textures. And they really are trying harder to represent the whole diversity of humanity. And that includes differently abled characters as well as racial and ethnic differences. So they have figures that are in wheelchairs, they have figures that have prosthetic legs, they have one that it has vitiligo on her face, and one is bald. So you can find those in Walmart and Target, but a lot of these collectors whose videos we saw here, they've been avidly accumulating dolls for decades, anywhere they could find them. And so there are things in there that you could maybe find on eBay today, but you wouldn't see them in the stores.
Thanks. So this one is from our JWJI fellow, Haley Harrell. Following up on Dr. Allen's question, could you speak to the heterosexual narratives that seem to frame these videos? Okay. Are there queer Black women who are engaging in this kind of storytelling?
Okay, so at the, from 2010 to 2015, when I was a part of this community, I didn't see anyone making videos with queer narratives, but there were gay men who were part of this community who made photo stories on their blogs. I just didn't know of any of them who actually made video. So yeah, this particular community, there is that heterosexist thread in the narratives. But if you go over to the Facebook group Black Dolls Matter, you will find, the whole gamut of people are not posting videos, but they're posting photos that show the whole gamut of relationships.
Thank you. Brett Brewer asks, can you explain how doll play does not objectify African-American bodies?
Okay, so when you are manipulating the doll, then you are the agent in the narrative. So that is counter to the power or lack thereof that most people inhabiting Black bodies have, because you can take your doll and she can be any profession that you want her to be, or he could go to the moon. I have a space capsule around here somewhere. So you can be an agent in a way that you may not be in your real life.
Thank you. So this question comes from one of our undergraduate fellows, Dominic Law. He asks, I have a research focused question in terms of using dolls as a proxy for children's racial bias in 2021. So again, kind of getting back to the Kenneth Clark tests,
Yeah.
Preferential choice, who do you like most? What do you think are some of the pros and cons of using scenarios versus no scenarios?
Okay, so I think it's Robin Bernstein who has written an article about that test. And she points out the flaw in the methodology, which was a flaw, but it was also a coup in terms of what it achieved. So that the Clarks actually structured that experiment so that the child essentially boxed itself into choosing the white doll and then broke down in tears or running out of the room or whatever. So from a methodological standpoint, structuring these kinds of experiments is difficult, but as a piece of theater, you can, as the Clarks did, it still provokes the same response.
Thank you. So this question is from, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Marcian De Lelis. I was interested in the aspect of soap operas never leading to closure and introducing elements that continually complicate the story. Can you speak more about that?
Okay, so well, of course, a successful soap opera is one that keeps getting renewed season after season. And so if you introduce closure into the story, then there's no reason for the readers to come back. I mean, the viewers to come back and watch next season. So instead of having conflict, crisis, resolution, we have conflict, crisis, and then complication, so that there's a new conflict, crisis, and that keeps viewers returning for years to follow these characters. I hope that answered that question.
Yes. Are there any other questions? Just want to be sure. Okay, then. So the final question was more of a comment, and I guess it does help to set up our close for today. So Valeska Papoulos says, thank you so much for sharing your research and congratulations on your forthcoming book. Hold on. So another one has just come in and I apologize for that. So if everybody could join me in virtually thanking Dr. Richards for her very insightful and thought-provoking presentation. And we very much hope that you come back next week. Thank you so much. Take care.